Do these sound bites sound familiar? Where's the report? The meeting's tomorrow already. I'm sorry if I'm sorry for the rush, but could you please come up with a presentation by the end of the day? When things are going too fast, take a break. Catch up on the hot topics and issues of the day on the Manila Times Coffee Break. Enjoy the perks of Coffee Break on the Manila Times Facebook page. I'm the Fort Villaseran. Please do join us.
Good day. Thank you for joining us today with the Manila Times Coffee Break. And with us today are three young and vibrant lawyers from GIA Law or GIA Law or GIA Law. Our legal advisors will be the ones to let us know how they prefer to be called. And perhaps you could explain to us why the name is such.
So, GIA Law stands for Gargantiel, Ilagan, at Anante. These are the three partners who started this firm. Actually, first one was Gargantiel. And then sometime thereafter, in 2015, 2016, Attorney Ilagan and Attorney Atanante joined the firm. So, they became the GIA Law. And then...
And it's interesting that the law firm had begun or bucked the trend from usual law firms who would be within the heart of the financial business districts like Makati or Ortigas. One of the unique things about the law firm is that it actually resides in the heart of Quezon City. And perhaps would you like to explain the method to this madness of being in Quezon City?
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why the partners chose to stay in Quezon City is because it's there's less traffic and it's nearer to most of the government offices in the Philippines.
And I think a number of the law courts are also more accessible there compared to the other legal venues.
Yeah.
So it was an untapped market that they thought.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think also one of the reason is that Makati caters to the south, more of south businesses. So Quezon City, it's more near to the north businesses. So we also have a lot of financial or businesses in Bulacan, in Quezon City, until I think our jurisdiction, or what do you call that, our market would reach up to Mandaluyong. Makati would be too far for us.
But you do actually have clients who come all the way from the south.
Yes.
Because to them the distance is not the concern, but really more of the expertise of
Yes.
the lawyers themselves. Speaking of which, I think a proper introduction is in order because serving as spokespersons for GIA Law, would be attorneys Derecho, Cantos, and Beltejar. And today we have a unique setup where each one will be the ones to introduce each other in a contest of being able to outdo each other in terms of presentation of briefs and the flair for words and knowledge of the subject matter, namely being their colleagues. So perhaps we'll begin with Attorney Beltejar's introduction.
Yeah, so good morning. So Attorney Banal Andrea Beltejar finished her psychology at Miriam College, and she took Bachelor's of Laws at San Beda College of Law. So I met Attorney Beltejar for the first time, even though we finished law school at San Beda. So I only met Attorney Beltejar at GIA Law. So on my first day, I remember she was not there. She was, I think, attending a hearing. I met Attorney Beltejar at GIA Law Firm. That was on a Tuesday. And then that was over lunch. And we were talking about a case, which was a case pending before Batangas courts. And they were joking around if I would go with Attorney Beltejar with Batangas. And I said yes. So I was able to even if I was just new at the law firm at that time, I was able to bond with Attorney Baltihar. And since then, she's always been very kind and helpful when it comes to handling cases. You know, along the way from Batangas and going back to Manila, we just talked about, you know, law school and how it's like in the firm. And she gave me pieces of advice, which up to this day, I use in my daily life as a lawyer.
So thank you for that, Attorney Cantos, for the introduction of Attorney Beltehar. Then perhaps we can have the introduction for Attorney Derecho.
Hi, good morning. I would like to introduce my colleague, Attorney Patricia Derecho. She took up her pre-law at the University of Santo Tomas and her bachelor's degree. Ano yung law? Sorry. Bachelor of Laws at San Beda University. And just like Attorney Cantos and I, we also came from San Beda, but Attorney Derecho and I didn't know each other during law school. We only knew each other in GIA Law. And my first impression of her is that she's very jolly, she's talkative, she smiles a lot. And what I like about her is she's very teachable, she's independent, she can do all the things that we tell her to do, and she's very responsible. And it's a nice balance of having that great personality and great work ethic as well.
So that's how Attorney Derecho beats her fellow lawyers, by out-talking them, out-smiling them, out-working them. Thank you for that introduction.
I think all of the lawyers in our firm are very jolly as well, very energetic.
So matirang matibay sa energy, kumbaga.
Yes.
Yun ang labanan, GIA. If you want an energetic firm who's always smiling, especially when you're not anymore, go with GIA. So thank you for that, Attorney Beltehar, for that very smiling introduction. And now we have our introduction for Attorney Cantos.
So good morning. Attorney Julie Cantos graduated in PUP with a degree of banking and finance. And she took up her law in San Beda as well, like me and Attorney Baltihar. So we were batchmates then. So I first met Attorney Cantos, or I call her Julie, when I joined the San Beda Legal Aid Bureau. So that's a legal clinic. As fourth-year law students, then we are already allowed to, or we were given the opportunity to appear in courts with a supervising lawyer. So we cater to indigent clients. So that was the first time when I met Julie, because she was also a legal aid intern. So what I like about Julie is her compassion for, as I myself also has compassion for animals, for all kinds of living things. But Julie really ranks the number one animal advocate. So animal and environmental advocate. So she's also very kind and also poses grace under pressure, although we're all tired in the office, we're working. Sometimes I even catch her. I go to the office at 8 a.m. and she's already there. And I tell her, "Oh, you're so early." And then she'll tell me, "I haven't had sleep, so I haven't had the chance to go home yet." So she'll just go home at 8 a.m. So she's very hardworking as well. And even though we're all experiencing stress, she never had the chance to treat other people, or to treat other people bad. She doesn't do that. She never tell any curse words, and that's what I really like about her, because I'm really particular about the people that I work with. So I don't like toxic people, and I know Julie is something I can really work for a long time.
Wow, thank you, Pam.
Tears.
Tears. Tissue, please.
Thank you. Yes, thank you for that very touching introduction of Attorney Cantos, Attorney Derecha. For today's topic, we have women lawyers dominating the local legal scene. And we have a set of formal questions, but essentially what we want to be able to do is highlight the experience of our young lady lawyers in the country in hopes that perhaps we could have their voices could be heard more often and even louder to be able to inspire our future lawyers to step up and be able to contribute to the growing voices that say that women lawyers dominate the legal scene. So going into the questions, Attorney Vanel Andrea Beltehar, I hope I got your name correctly.
Yes.
Yeah. So given the nation's cultural diversity, from north to the south, you have all sorts of cultures, languages, cuisine, and even from the physical features of Filipino, we have such diversity, dialects, and in terms of what we can find in them, the cottage industries, and of course, the way people interact, the politics involved, basically help shape each region, each province, and then the entire nation as a whole. With that long-winded introduction, basically the question is, how would you situate because you have all these diverse challenges for our lady lawyers, our young lady, especially modern women lawyers in this very rooted in tradition and yet striving towards modernity type of cultural diversity. How would then these challenges be addressed by modern women lawyers?
I think the challenge is more being good at what you do and without these outside influences or factors. And for me, I came from the province of Nueva Vizcaya. So I've been exposed to the challenges of people coming from the provinces and going to Manila and studying law. And of course, also practicing law. Now, the challenge, I think, is how you adapt to the language, because we speak Ilocano back in Nueva Vizcaya. And so when I went here in Manila to study in high school, there is a like language barrier. But good thing about law is that you speak the same language. So not just English, but the legal jargons, the legal concepts, the legal principles, it's all the same. So it doesn't matter what background you had before. It doesn't matter from which part of the country you came from, or what type of, or what pre-law you took up. The legal profession, the practice is the same. So I think that's what is good about law. And as a lawyer, as a woman lawyer, there is no, I think there should be no difference between a man and a woman who is practicing law, because we are upholding the same values and principles, and we just want justice for everyone.
That's actually an interesting insight on how the whole legal process is a great equalizer for both ethnicity and even gender. But I imagine it's not so much a hindrance, the differences, but it could also be actually a plus, a strength that you can bring into the practice. Perhaps maybe your background from the province, and perhaps being the inherent advantages perhaps of being a woman. These are possibly things into the practice in terms of strength.
Yes.
Would you say?
Yeah, that's a good point. I noticed that women lawyers are more keen to details. We are more particular to the small details. And I think if you're practicing law and litigation, you have to
I hear objections from the male lawyers in the,
No, I'm
in the
not
court.
saying
Denied.
I'm not saying they're not particular with details, but as
Sit
women,
down,
we
sit down,
I think
girl.
we are trained to be very particular to details. So we are also very compassionate about the case of our clients. Sometimes you get very affected when something untoward happens to a case. So I think that's one of the advantages of being a woman lawyer.
I think you made a case for us needing more women lawyers there in our courtroom.
Yes, I think
Yes,
we do.
We really do.
Yeah.
Perhaps more compassion is needed in all our venues of lawmaking.
Yeah.
So, but then you mentioned that there shouldn't be any divide. There shouldn't be any difficulty in navigating the legal jargon and the legal process because it's supposed to equalize. But you have the theory, and then for you, for your personal experience, how far apart has the divide been between these highfalutin concepts of equality versus the actual practice and experience of yours in boardrooms and courtrooms?
I think, for example, in our firm, there are three male partners, three senior partners that are male, and we have one female junior partner. So I think the advantage of men now is they had time. They were first. They were here first and they've been here longer, so naturally they have the higher positions, and the good news for us, for women.
What's up, gentlemen?
No,
Look behind you.
yes,
Do you feel the breathing down your necks?
we are not far behind because there is already an emergence of women lawyers. When
You've been
when
warned.
in law school, majority of my classmates are women. Only 10% are men. Can you imagine that? Before, only one or two female students are present in the classroom. Now, only 10% are men. So I think that's the advantage that we have now as women lawyers, because we are emerging in the legal profession. So
It's a very Filipino scenario, right?
yes.
Papaligiran na namin kayo, sumuko na kayo, lumabas na kayo, walang masaktan.
Hindi naman. Sa courtroom naman, when
How would you account for that? The larger percentage of women taking up the study of law. Is there an explanation that you can perhaps present? Why so?
I think because now we are more exposed to the legal profession. Like before, when I was young, I didn't know that there is such thing as a lawyer. I just wanted to become a doctor because a doctor has a uniform. It's very identifiable. But when you're a lawyer, it's not. So I think girls before is looking for that something identifiable to be inspired. But as we grow up, we notice that there are women who are very strong, like Miriam Defensor. I think she's like the epitome of a good inspiration of how to become a strong woman. So that's when the girls suddenly became aware of this profession of being a lawyer.
I imagine this was the perception. This was your personal journey and
Yes.
how and your friends, the people that you in your social circles became aware of the options, the possibilities. But of course, the profession and women lawyers have been around since forever. Also, perhaps it's a function of the exposure and the inspiration provided by those that came before and the ones who are there already. inviting the people to come in. We need you. We need more of you here with us. Would you say then that the educational system locally compared to the training that we have for lawyers in general and women lawyers in particular, is it up to scratch with the rest of the world in terms of putting us on equal footing
Yeah,
in the global
yeah,
international legal system?
yeah. I think our law schools are capable of making Filipino lawyers on equal footing with foreign attorneys. Why? Because I think the law schools here in the Philippines as well as abroad um, employ the same method of teaching, which is the Socratic method. So all lawyers have gone through the same training, and so I think even if we study here in the Philippines or even if we study abroad, we get the same training. We get the same training because our the method employed by the most law schools are the same.
But you mentioned the Socratic method, and this is something that's been up all the way since the time of the Greeks in their city-states. But
Uh,
nowadays, our cities are, you could say, under hostage, or perhaps just simply needing to evolve to more challenging times. So how then would you say either the Socratic method or whatever blended method of learning and teaching law now has come to adjust or adapt?
I think
So this-
the Socratic method can still adapt to what we have right now. Like for example, you can hold recitations via Zoom, and you can ask questions, and then the student can answer immediately, and then you can see the reactions, or you can already get the answer from the student. So there is a challenge of not being able to hold the lessons in a physical school, but there is an avenue still, which is
So
video.
if anything, the challenging times have actually allowed us to have a wider and further reach, if you think about it. More people participate in the conversation.
But just one quick background. How we do it in law school is that the professors have this like cards where they put our names, and then they shuffle it, and then they pick a name, and that person will answer the question. Yeah, he or she will recite, and that's how it is. And I think that's still being implemented even if the school is conducted via Zoom.
So it's a little bit like Russian roulette also, where you're randomly having to bite the bullet if it happens to land on your name.
Yes, and no one can answer on your behalf. So it's not a conversation of everyone. It's just a conversation between the person reciting and the teacher or the professor.
So given that in the scenario where the majority of the students having to answer are actually women, would you say, first of all, that this is an observation on your part, but not necessarily a statistically verifiable reality nowadays? Or it's actually a common acceptance that more women are actually studying law?
I mean, yeah, it's based on my personal experience. I don't know if it's the same with Attorney Derecho or Attorney Cantos. So
Attorneys, any additional motion, or would
Actually,
you
I
concur?
agree with I agree with Attorney Vanel that when I was in fourth year in law school, almost 10% or less are men, and I always notice that because if you see in our library, there's every year once the results of the bar are released, all the names, the photos of those who passed from San Beda are posted. So I always look at that poster just to inspire myself while I study. So I noticed that a lot of the photos are women. So I say that, well, maybe I have a greater fighting chance because a lot of the passers are women. So I think um, nowadays or on the, I don't know if the millennial years of law school, a lot of women have been going to or taking up law.
Well, this is very encouraging, and in fact, from the viewpoint of the firsts for women, I think wider strides are being made. A lot more firsts are being able to be achieved simply because you're there. The simple presence of first woman to graduate with so and so a grade, so and so X number of years. For some people, they're able to finish it faster, and some people take a lot longer to finish to get their degree, right? So perhaps maybe we can talk about that in terms of firsts for women in the legal profession in the Philippines in particular. Would you say that you've personally come across people who've achieved these kind of firsts, or you yourself have had any firsts in the name of women's achievements for law?
For me, I remember in 2015 when usually for San Beda, they boast a lot of top-notchers. So San Beda usually has a lot of top one, two, three bar passers. But in 2015, it was special because the top-notcher at that time, first woman top-notcher was, I forgot her name, sorry. It was a woman. I forgot her name, but she was not far behind in my batch. Alcobilla, Attorney Alcobilla was the first woman Bedan top-notcher.
Yeah.
So it was really a celebration at that time for San Beda. And at that time, I was also, I think, in third year or fourth year law school. So I was again inspired, aside from the fact that I see a lot of women passing the bar. It was an additional inspiration for us, or for me personally, that she was able to top the bar at that time.
How about you, Attorney Derecho? Do you have any personal experiences or in particular goals about firsts, legal firsts that you want to set for yourself?
Legal first. Does it count when I'm not yet? I mentioned before that I was a fourth year legal intern. I was not yet a lawyer, but we were allowed to practice or to appear in courts for indigent clients. So I think it was, I'm not sure if it's a milestone comparable to the top notcher, but I was able to, or we were able to win a case for a criminal case by a man against a woman. So I was really proud because it was for a woman and by a woman, me personally. So I think it's a milestone or a first for me at that
Yes.
time.
How about you, Attorney Beltehar? Any legal firsts in the name of women or for women, or any personal goals that you want to stake out for yourself?
Me, personally, I have not yet achieved any firsts as a woman, but I am fortunate. We are fortunate that there already have been women who paved the way for us to where we are, and if it were not for these brave women who dip their toes into the legal profession, then none will follow. Then maybe Attorney Derecho or Attorney Cantos will not be inspired also to become lawyers. So we are fortunate that the firsts were taken by these strong women. Like for example, the first woman lawyer and litigator, Attorney Natividad Almeda, and also the first associate justice of the Supreme Court, Justice Cecilia Munoz Palma.
Well, if you'll allow me to digress a little bit, I find that very an interesting venue or an avenue to tackle. Could you perhaps share with us your personal heroes in terms of women lawyers? They could be Filipina, they could be foreign, they could even be fictional in terms of how you've watched someone portray a lawyer, act it out, but you like what they stood the persona that they stood for. The whole range of inspiration is open actually in terms of how you'd like to answer the question. Attorney Beltehar, perhaps you could start.
For me, I admire women lawyers that I know that are real. I admire my former professor, Attorney Vanessa Raimundo. She is a partner at a law firm, and she's practicing corporate law. And it was such a fulfilling achievement for me to be able to work with my former professor, Attorney Raimundo. And I admire her because she topped the bar and she became a partner at a law firm. And she is practicing corporate law. And I think not a lot of women are practicing that field of law. Although I think a lot women should be allowed to explore other fields of law like litigation, corporation law, labor law, aviation, and also being able to practice in the government. So what I like is that in our firm, it's a full service firm, so we can tap into different kinds of fields of law. So when I saw Attorney Raimundo practicing corporate law, it inspires me because that's also what majority of my work is right now in GLO. So although I did not top the bar, I aspire to become a partner as well.
How about you, Attorney Derecho? Any personal heroes locally, uh, abroad, or even in fiction?
Actually, I have one that I have been admiring. I don't know if you know the O.J. Simpson case. It has been very famous before. And actually, recently I was able to watch the whole trial. And I admired the prosecutor in that case. It was a woman, prosecutor, Marsha Clark. So I admired her because actually, even here in the Philippines locally, not a lot of women are prosecutors or, well, actually, personally, I'm scared to handle criminal cases or drugs cases, those kinds of really sensitive cases. So I admired her because she was able to go up against several men opponents at that time. The defense counsel for O.J. Simpson at that time, they call themselves the Dream Team at that time. It was I think five men lawyers, and she was just going. She was initially she was going up against them by herself, but eventually she was given help by another prosecuting counsel. So after that, after I watched the whole trial, I researched about her life after the trial. I researched about um, everything about her because I was really I admired what she did in that trial. And unfortunately, however, I think after that O.J. Simpson case, since O.J. Simpson was acquitted,
Mhm.
if you guys knew, he
Yes.
was acquitted, and I think it took a toll on her career. So she stopped being a prosecutor, and she instead wrote a book. But again, it was still a very admirable thing to do because she described all her struggles. She kept on inspiring women to do the same and to be brave enough for cases like that.
In your research about her, what resonated with you? What did you relate with or empathize about?
I like something that I like about her was she being very independent. I don't know if you what Attorney Baltihar uh, described me was I am really an independent person. I like to do things on my own. I like to think of own ways, and a part of me, even though I'm really scared, I say that I'm scared to handle criminal cases or very sensitive cases. But a part of me is wondering, and a part of me is actually, hey, what if I get to try to handle those cases? So a part of me is scared, but a part of me is um, really eager to handle those kinds of cases. So I and sometimes I'm also a very competitive person. So when you say that men versus women, so we're really up for that. I don't know, a semi competition. So at that time, I when I saw or when I researched about the O.J. Simpson trial, prosecutor Marsha Clark was really uh, competitive. She really delivers on all those cases. So I relate to that. I feel like the independent part and the competitive part.
How about you, Attorney Cantos? Would you have any legal women heroes who are in the same vein, independent perhaps, or trailblazing, or willing to go up against the odds, against the Goliaths of the legal industry?
Yes, as for me, Attorney Van mentioned earlier, the late Senator Miriam Santiago. So the same thing happened to me when I was a child. So I do not know who are I do not know any lawyers except Attorney Miriam. So I remember watching her on TV, being the strong-willed woman that she was, fighting against the Goliaths in the political realm, and it was then that I realized I wanted to become like her. You know, I wanted to be able to say what's on my mind, to fight for what's right, and to inspire other people, because I believe that a lot of young lawyers were already inspired by Senator Miriam, because she was really the uh, famous lawyer, you know, growing up. She's always on TV fighting against political figures and uh, going for justice. And Attorney Van mentioned earlier about our law firm being a full service law firm. So actually, I'm very happy with that, because in our law firm, not only are we able to navigate from one practice to another, from litigation to corporate to energy and such that, but our partners really allow us to express our mind, especially when it comes to pleading. So they allow us to incorporate our own arguments. Actually, they don't tell us what to write. They trust that we know what we will write, and they trust our opinions and on the matters at hand. So that for me is a big thing, because it respects, it shows that they respect us, not only as lawyers, but as women who are also capable of doing what men can. And so that for me is a really good deal. So I'm very happy that I am with Gia Law Firm.
These opportunities for being able to test the waters of the entire range of legal activities is actually a great opportunity. I agree. In fact, right now is a great opportunity to perhaps help explain or talk to future lady lawyers on the great opportunities that await them. Could you perhaps briefly explain to the uninitiated what's out there, what's possible, what are all the many interesting things that a woman can do as a lawyer?
So I mentioned earlier litigation. So I've only been a lawyer for a very short time, so 1 year and 4 months to be exact. And I've from a very limited experience. So I've been to courts, and most of the lawyers, litigators, are male. So I hope that women would also try to practice law and become litigator. So in litigation, you go to courts and you are the one to actually defend the clients and attend hearings and the such, because there are other areas in law.
But if I may just latch on to your experience briefly,
Okay.
it's interesting in terms of how you enter a courtroom and you're into litigation, and it's as from your description, it's a male-dominated scenario, and you'd think that the perhaps some people are assuming that the woman here in this scene is at a disadvantage. But I'd like to turn that on its head and present a different scenario or a different reading of the room. Would you agree that perhaps the woman entering a male-dominated courtroom is actually an advantage for the woman, and that the men in the room are in trouble? Any
No,
thoughts?
to be fair, I don't think that being a woman is an advantage in the courtroom, because whether you're a man or a woman, you have to prepare for the case. However, uh, the courtrooms these days are really filled with men. So I'm saying that I hope women would practice law so that uh, there would be this, the people would think less that lawyers who attend in court are only male. So I know, I still think that people tend to be drawn to the macho image that we should hire a male lawyer, they will fight for us. No, I want women to be more in there in court, in trial, to at least show to the people that we are also capable of fighting for you the same way that men have been fighting for you these years.
I was just wondering if any of the usual dynamics changed. If a woman were to approach things more empathically or with a little more sympathy, perhaps, is there when you take the approach of being less confrontational and less, the A-type personality of I have to win. Let's knock horns and let's see who can throw each other, who can throw the other down faster, sooner, stronger. Um, are there perhaps other ways that you're able to tackle a courtroom, the dynamics of the energy in the courtroom, to be able to further your case?
When I approach the courtroom, I am always respectful. So I think uh, because there are male lawyers who think that, especially those who have been lawyers for so long, that they can do anything when they come to the court. So I think that women are
It
more,
tends to be viewed as a battleground rather than a venue
yeah,
for seeking out the truth. I imagine traditionally it's really more of who carries the bigger stick, and then in comes the woman who says, "Let's put your sticks away. Let's talk about what's right." It, I was wondering if you've had experiences of changing the energy in the room and the flow of the conversation, uh, taking the narrative into your own hands. So
So for that, because I've only been a lawyer for a very short time, so I haven't had any experience with that. So usually we would always go with hearings, and in hearing we have this mediation. So this is a process whereby parties could talk before going through the trial. So in mediation, you would try to settle the cases. So I think women, when it comes to mediation, are more, let's say, could speak in a more emphatic or compassionate way so that we could arrive at the settlement. I
yes,
think that's what they're going through.
yes, I imagine that that more of that kind of situation comes to the advantage for lady lawyers.
Yes, and I think another advantage would be when women talk to clients. I think that's an important part of being a lawyer. So women lawyers, from the women that I know, are more careful with the words when they're talking to clients. You know, clients can be uh, easily uh, angered sometimes when they don't want the news that they hear, or there could be situations that you cannot expect what the clients would how the clients would react. And I think women handle that better. You don't fight fire with fire. So you try to talk in a manner calmly so that in hopes that the client would understand or the opposing party would understand. And I think that's what women are, I think, a bit better in
Yes,
terms of.
a good point about uh, the subtle and perhaps traditional and male lawyers, but perhaps things are also changing, and that would be a good thing. Attorney Baltihar, have you had similar experiences in terms of the male and female lawyer dynamic at your law firm? Even how long have you been? And did you start out with any male lawyers together?
Yeah, I've been with the firm for 3 years. I think, yeah, 3 years. And when I entered the firm, there were majority of the associates are male, and there is only one female associate. So when I entered the firm, so two of us are women lawyers, and then I think 3 or 4 associates are male. So our firm was a male dominated firm before, but now, as you can see, majority of the associates are now female. So there is this change over time that
Mhm.
which proves my point that there is an emergence of women in the legal profession. Now, as to I just want to share an experience in court where you can see the difference, the different dynamics of women and men. Because women are more particular with details, we are more strict with following the rules. So we had an opposing lawyer who is male, and he failed to follow the rules. So we are invoking our right to have his presentation presentation of his evidence be waived. Now, because we followed the rules, we can invoke it, and we are saying that he didn't follow the rules. Now, the sad thing here is if the judge is also male, he would side with the male lawyer, and he will just say na
Okay na yan. Okay
yes,
lang yan. Masyado ka namang
in the
busy or
interest
something.
in the interest of higher justice, mga ganyan. So it's sad for us that
People
we
actually say that in the interest of higher
yes,
justice.
yes they do.
Actual
If they
legal
want to
term.
be,
Yeah.
Is that reason
But
enough?
that's a legal term, and it's allowed. They
No,
allow
but
it. They allow
then
it.
this allowable and traditional response of a judge, is it actually sexist or not necessarily?
It depends.
not,
I think
not
not
necessarily, I think.
necessarily. It
Okay.
just becomes sexist if the judge is male, and um, the the lawyer asking for leniency is also male, and then the the person invoking the rule or the law is female, so that becomes sexist. But if all are male or if all are female, and that that phrase is being uttered, it's no longer sexist.
So please bear with me, but the thing is, I think it's a concern
Mhm.
that a lot of up and coming lady lawyers and aspiring lawyers who happen to be women, that there are still entrenched lawyers with a very traditional perception. And while these established forms of behavior have their merits and have their basis in the past, uh, perhaps are open to review and could maybe evolve with the times if necessary. Because, I mean, to begin with, does it still happen where your male counterparts get promoted faster than you, get better opportunities, get invited to certain meetings, and clubs or whatever. In what ways are men still given better access?
I think I understand that your question was actually formulated from the traditional view that usually men are given more opportunities, promoted faster, or are
Mhm.
given certain. In our case, for law firms, usually before they would they would specifically ask for that they're hiring male lawyers only because the reason is that male lawyers can handle off-sites, like going out of office more frequently. They would be able to run back and forth to the office, to the court. They'd be able to go face hard clients, ejection cases. But I believe now a lot of firms are no longer requiring it, because like us, we are trying to break that stigma in our office. um, Before I've personally heard that a partner in our office was asking for a guy to come with a client to assist him in during for bail, during for because it's actually a you would make a lady lawyer run in her heels and her skirt. So they would specifically ask for a guy to do that, to do the errands or something like that. But since we are all, Attorney Cantos, Attorney Beltehar, and me, are trying to prove to them that we lady lawyers can handle those kinds of cases, even if we're on our heels or where we're on our skirts. So personally, I've experienced execution of decisions, evicting unwanted tenants from the property. So, of
Mhm.
course, that is something men should do because commotions might happen. There would be injuries might occur, but I went there. And personally, I can say that I wasn't afraid or I wasn't scared of what might happen because, well, I'm a lady lawyer. So I guess eventually, as we continue to prove them that we can do things, the stigma that men get promoted or men can handle certain cases are, I think, that stigma is breaking down.
Mhm. Well, clearly, especially in GIA law, this is something that's no longer an issue. Uh,
Yes,
but perhaps it's not the practice or the old ways are have not broken down as well or as fast enough in other legal scenarios in other law firms, perhaps.
yes, maybe.
Um, Perhaps how would you say, let's say, as a personal lawyer or an in-house lawyer, because you work in a firm, right? And there are
Yes.
companies that have on their payroll, they have their in-house lawyers. So that's one form of legal practice. In that avenue, would you say that women have made more advances, that the old ways have broken down pretty well in that scenario, the practice of in-house lawyers?
I can't really say statistically that there are a lot of women as in-house counsels, but I personally know a lot of women lawyers who are in-house counsels in certain corporations. I remember my professor. She was also my idol in corporate law. She is the in-house counsel of Ayala Land. So at that time, I really admire her because she would work for long hours, and then we would have classes on a Saturday. And then she's really good in teaching corporate law. So that's one. And I also know another professor who is a in-house counsel for Meralco um, for our clients. Some of our clients, we deal with the in-house counsel, and the in-house counsel are women lawyers. So I can't say that that's based on numbers or statistical research, but based on my experience or our experience, we have dealt with a lot of lady lawyers as in-house counsels. So I guess they are also given a fair chance now to be corporate in-house lawyers.
So would you say that there is no longer a glass ceiling, and that people are able to breach the former limitations for lady lawyers?
I think for in-house, for corporate law, there is no more any ceiling, or women can be the vice president, women lawyers can be the VP for legal, or anything like that. But I do
Mhm.
think that there is still a stigma, or I mean, there is still a limitation as to uh, politics, as to our executive department. Of course, I always notice that, for example, the cabinet secretaries, only one, I think, is a woman. So I think in those kinds of aspects, the limitations are, there are still limitations. But as to corporate law, law firms, I think the male female differentiation is no longer applicable nowadays. Well, based on our experience.
Yes. I think that would be that's a good framework or base from which to inform our aspiring lady lawyers. If you want to thrive in an already open environment, then you can get into in-house lawyering or corporate law, or you can enter a firm and be part of the stable of a particular corporation, a company of lawyers. But if you're more of a pioneer, you have that pioneering bent, and you like challenges, and you want to be able to break new ground, then perhaps government and the Justice Department could be avenues where women could venture into and make their own mark. Am I correct in what you're saying?
Yes, but just to also add, I think there are also emerging numbers of female judges.
Mhm.
So, of course, we go to several courts, and I would notice that the judge here is woman, and I would always be deep inside. I would always be happy because
Mhm.
it's a female judge,
Mhm.
and just to share, I was also admired by the judge in, if you know the case of the Maguindanao massacre, the one who decided that was a female judge. So she convicted the accused in that case. So I was really admired by her bravery, by her courage that she was able to do that. So I always feel there's a certain feel of happiness when I see female judges in court. So because they are brave, and of course at the same time I think they are also, I assume that they are also mothers, they are also wives, so they are able to juggle all of those things and be a judge at the same time.
Uh, Attorney Beltehar, do you agree with the observation that there are more uh, lady judges and women in terms of positions of authority in the legal scenario?
Yes, I totally agree with Attorney Derecho, because I think women now are looking for stability, looking for more time to be able to spend with their family as well. So one reason that women choose to become judges is there is a fixed schedule. You can go to courts at 8 a.m. and then you can leave at, I think, 5 p.m. So if there is a stable time, there is a stable compensation when it comes to when you're working with the judiciary. And I think that that's the main point why women are more and more going through that path in their career, and as opposed to women practicing litigation, because in litigation there is no set time. You can be called by a client at any moment, at any day, at any time of the day. So it chips away a lot of your time with your family, or with whatever you want to do. So I think that is why there are a lot of women in the judiciary and also in the corporate offices as in-house counsel because they provide that kind of stability. And for us in litigation, we don't have that much of freedom when it comes with our time.
But would you say that the success of some being able to reach certain positions as women, as judges, as female heads of corporate teams, for instance, when you encounter them, is it easier or is it actually harder when you end up dealing with other female lawyers? Because they're meticulous, right? So are they as meticulous as you, and therefore it takes longer because you're both just kind of battling out the teeny tiny details, or is it easier?
Yeah, for me, I think it's easier to work with our female counterparts because we none of us speak the same language, but we have the same vision that we want this to be done in this way, and we want this to be done like faster. Or we know that that our counterpart is not taking advantage of whatever, you know. So I think for me personally, in my experience, it was easier working with female counterparts. I think, yeah, I can say that it's easier working with Attorney Cantos, Attorney Derecha, and other female lawyers in our firm.
I'd like to ask Attorney Cantos, with your personal experience, Attorney, would you say women are also easier to deal with, or have you had very, very strong clashes with lady lawyers in terms of someone who was equally passionate or equally competitive, more than men?
Same with Attorney Van. I find it easier to work with women lawyers. So aside from being keen to details, we want things to be as clear as possible. We don't want to be to keep second guessing what does this mean and something like that. And so
Let's
women
put a label on it, right? Let's be clear.
yes. So because in
Labo-labo
lawyering,
dito, mahirap yun.
because in lawyering you cannot rely on vagueness. You have to be as specific as possible. And I think women are more masipag when it comes to that, when trying to clear out things, so that to prevent any vagueness in the future.
I hear objections again from the
Masipag in all things.
Yeah, but of course
You'll have
that's
your turn later, sir.
okay, but that's based only on my personal experience now, especially with the law firm. So majority of us are female, and then we understand each other that we want this to be clean, or we want for example, the arrangement in the folders to be as fixed as possible. And when it comes to pleading, to make sure that the paragraphs are aligned and something about small details. But for us, we find it also important to give attention to.
Mhm. So going back to the previous question about women having achieved a certain level of success, would you care to share a personal success story involving your process or the process or journey that you went through in becoming a lawyer? Well, of course, in the context of being a woman in the Philippine legal setting.
So in GIA law, I've in my very short experience, but I've already done many. I've already processed many bail, and I think because I am keen to details, being a woman, I tend to finish the task easier. So when there are new cases, you have to do a lot of things. For example, and on my first time, of course, they would teach. I would learn what to do, but on the second time that I posted bail until the third, fourth, and so on. So the partners no longer needed to tell me or to assist me or to guide me what to do, because I've already took down notes from the first time, and so now and learned from it. So from now, whenever there are new cases that I would have to bail the clients, it's easier for me because I've already taken down notes. Uh, I've already observed what it's like or what's needed to be done in order for that in order that the bail process would be easier and would be faster and would be completed uh, at a very short time compared to, I think, other lawyers.
So, gentlemen, you've heard it straight from the ladies. Okay, take down more notes and stop taking photocopies or pictures of their notes. Okay, take your own notes. Attorney Beltehar, would you have any personal success stories in the same vein in your journey of becoming a lawyer uh, in the context of being a woman in the Philippine setting?
Okay, as mentioned earlier, I came from Miriam College. So it's an all-girls school. So when I went to law school, I was surprised that there are few students who came from exclusive schools. Like I only know two from Miriam College. I only know one from Assumption and none from Saint Scholastica. So um, I I want to encourage the students from exclusive schools that being a lawyer is achievable, you know, and I want to see more of more women coming from these exclusive schools becoming lawyers because I think that's a personal success for me that I came from an all girls school because our training there is different. We didn't have any interaction with our male counterparts. So when I entered law school, it's a different vibe because majority are male. So I want more. Yeah, I want more lawyers who will be coming from these exclusive schools.
How about you, Attorney Derecho? Would you agree that perhaps in the same vein, the success stories need to be amplified, more women in the Philippine legal setting?
I do agree with Attorney Beltihar. Actually, in my own experience, uh, I'm not sure if this can be considered as a success story comparable to the other success stories. But when I was in first year law, um, at that time, a lot of guys are a lot. I have a lot of guy classmates, but at that time, I feel so disadvantaged because I just feel that I'm just some any other girl from UST. I'm not this what do you call that, the magna cum laude or anything like that. I wasn't the very brightest student before, but I was really diligent. I think um, being at a disadvantaged position or being discriminated against because oh, you're a woman, you can do this, you can pick up law. It gave me more push to be able to work diligently, work twice as hard, and just what as mentioned before, when I was in fourth year, only 10% are males. I'm not saying that by by male population, but I'm saying that sometimes the discrimination worked to my advantage. I was able to get through second year, third year, and believe us, it was really hard. Like the professors are killing each and every one of us every day. So
Were there ever professors who singled you out because you were a lady legal student? Would you say? Did you ever feel that?
Yeah, I was
They were
able
less fair to you, they were harsher on a woman?
yes, I was able to feel sometime when I was in my younger years. At that time, my emotions were also unstable. I feel so less of myself because I'm a woman, and that more. At that time, my view was of the traditional view that only male uh, are allowed in this profession. And sometimes I do feel, although I really cannot remember the specific details about it, but some professors would really discriminate you or would talk or would think less of you just because you're a female law student at that time. But it was a success story for me that I was able to reach fourth year. I was able to graduate on time, 4 years. So, and I was able to pass the bar. So it was really hard because I was at a disadvantage, but I turned it as a weapon to work as twice as hard.
Yeah, I just
Then,
want to add that experience in law school because
yes,
I don't
go
know
ahead.
if Attorney Cantos and Attorney Derecho is also familiar with this particular professor. When I had an experience when one of my classmates recited, and then she asked the professor if she can change her answer, and then the professor said, "Okay, you're a woman. You're entitled to change your mind." So if you hear that, it's very sexist, you know. But if you
But
think,
perhaps it was said in just to lighten the mood, or
yes,
was it
yes,
really okay?
yeah, it was just to lighten the mood. But the context is sexist, but
But
it's to
do
your
you disagree?
advantage.
Do you disagree? Women do not change their mind in your experience.
I think
We do.
everyone is entitled to change their.
Yes.
I'm getting from the male lawyers. I see hands raised.
Yeah, everyone is entitled to change their mind, not just women.
Just women. I know a lot of men who change their mind often, you know. So
Okay.
it's not just for women. So I
Great.
just want to share that experience. But I think a lot of professors are getting more acquainted with the fact that there should be gender equality in the school setting, because they shouldn't be basing their grades on the gender of the person reciting, or the person who wrote their answer in the exams, but they should base their grades on how the question was answered. And in the bar exams, the examiner doesn't know if the examinee is a female or male. So that shouldn't be a factor in law school as well.
Then, if that's the case, and there are still older professors around, Attorney Director, how would you then motivate our our ladies in law school? How do you tell them to power on, keep moving forward?
Well,
What
just
would you
like
have to say to your former self in law school if you could go back and tell yourself, "Hey, this is what I know now. I'm telling you this."
yeah, just like if I can speak to my younger self, first year law student that I am, that I feel so disadvantaged, I would just tell her to just keep going. And if you have to work twice as hard, if you have to go up against all these discriminations, or I think if you have to prove, I guess you really have to prove them wrong. You have to break the stigma that whether you're male or female, you can do it. You can graduate, you can pass the bar, you can become a lawyer. So to those who feel, and I think instead of being, of course, when people are at a disadvantage, they feel depressed, they want to give up. But I think it's better that if you use it as a weapon to instead to fire you up or to fuel you up to be better, or just to prove them wrong. Well, I like doing that. When people tell something against me, I like to prove them wrong. So that's what I did, and I guess that's also what they can do to those young lady law students.
You don't like being told you can't do it. You're like,
Yes, I
really?
really don't like.
Watch me. Sit down, sit down.
Yeah.
How about you, Attorney Cantos? Uh, would you sympathize with what Attorney Derecho said?
Yes, I agree with Attorney Derecho that if you want to do something, that you have to work hard for it. I think in law school, whether in law school or in legal profession, preparation is key. So constant reading and reviewing cases, reading jurisprudence. So you have to prepare yourself mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. So spiritually and emotionally, because you have to acknowledge that things will not always go your way, that there will be people who will look down on you because you are a woman, or think that you are incapable of doing something, or that you are a feeble person who needs protection or something to that effect. So if you come to court prepared, or if you come to the classroom prepared, you can show them that I can do this as well. I am capable of this. And so I think always preparation. Preparation is key, whether you're studying, whether you're preparing for the bar exams, or whether you are already a lawyer and practicing law.
Well, I know now that when Attorney Cantos is prepared, we're all in trouble. Uh, so, how about here's an interesting scenario. What if you're not as prepared as you want? Uh, Something's missing, there wasn't enough time, you're just not up to scratch or up to speed, your usual speed. So you're not feeling confident. But how do you, then what does Attorney Cantos do?
Actually, that happens a lot in law school, because you can prepare for the subject. However, as Attorney Baltar mentioned earlier, the way we do it in law school is that there's a class card, and then either it would be shuffled, or the professor would pick a class card and then would call that person to recite. So whether you're prepared for the subject or not, you don't know which question you will be asked to. And then if you're asked on a question, or especially on a case that you haven't read, I experienced that actually. We have this in labor law, we have like 200 cases for one day. That's aside from the readings that we have to do in CODAL and in books. And then I read most of the cases. However, I was called in these 2 cases that I wasn't able to read. So at that time, yeah, so at
What
that
do you
time,
do?
so you have to maintain
Your
composure,
moment.
and yes, you have to maintain your composure and try to say something, something that comes up of your mind, or you have to fight until the battle's not yet over. So until you're not asked to be sit down to be seated, then you have to say something, or maybe you can get ideas from other cases. For example, if this is a certain topic, and then you will discuss certain facts that would be similar, you think similar to the case that you were called in. So when you are put into the spotlight, wherein you're not as prepared as you are. So for me, I always go back to being just trying to look confident. Fake it till you make it. Sometimes actually, I experienced this one time. I was in court. I don't know that you have to move to say that we are moving for the correction of, for example, a judicial affidavit. So the judge kept asking me, so you are going to move. So are you moving for the change in the judicial affidavit, something to that effect? And then she kept repeating it, and so I don't know what I'm going to do, because I'm alone at that time. And so you try to observe. That's why composure is important. So you try to observe, and then listen to what others are saying. Sometimes someone might help you out. So at that time, so
Listening. This is
judge,
something that women are better at than men, I suppose.
I think so.
I think so. I think we're more composed. So
Mhm.
So you have to, just try to remain relaxed, and then
Smile.
observe from the surroundings and then smile, and then hopefully you'll know what to do. And at that time, so I finally realized, the judge wants me to move, to say that I am moving for the change in the judicial affidavit.
You're able to pick up on the subtleties, on the
I
nuances of, and perhaps even the non-verbal communication that others were giving off.
Yes, the cues. You have to be observant, and you can't always expect to know everything. So you have to be composed and observant, and as you said, be mindful of the subtleties that others are trying to teach you.
Well, what other advice can you give our aspiring lady lawyers, or perhaps even your former self, your former law student self? What would you tell yourself now, and the other lady lawyers to be?
So when I was studying, I would always say to myself, pursue and persevere. And then we have this saying in San Beda, it's ora et labora. It means prayer and labor. That is praying relentlessly and working tirelessly in the midst of uncertainty. So I want to tell my uh, old self, my law student self, that you just have to keep that in mind when you become a lawyer. There will be things that come in your way that you're not expecting, or the stress will be um, much more than the stress you handled in law school. But that's okay. You can do it. You just have to persevere, and at the end of the day, at the end of the tunnel, you will see the light. So just keep on going and pushing forward and fighting for what you believe in, and that's justice.
So, as a humble lady lawyer, what can you say to the future and aspiring women lawyers, those who heard you just now and go, hey, maybe I can be a lawyer, or those who are struggling to become one and are losing maybe hope, losing steam? What can you tell them? How can you inspire them,
Uh,
these lady lawyers?
to the aspiring lady lawyers, you certainly can do it. I mean, there are times that you think it's difficult and that you can no longer survive. But then, if you are tired, exhausted, rest. But do not ever stop pursuing law school or pursuing your dreams. It's normal that we feel defeated at times, but it is through this defeat and uh, that we rise. So whatever frustrations that you have with yourself, especially with what's happening with the world, you can use it as fuel to continue studying, continue learning, and to continue inspiring to continue to aspire as a lawyer.
Well, thank you for those inspiring words, Attorney Julie May Marie Anton.
Thank you.
Maybe as a kind of closing, yung closing statements mo, could be not so much trying to, well, it's important and it helps to give that rah-rah to our wannabe lady lawyers, but perhaps the best way to convince them is to talk about love. What do you love about what you do? The love of your practice. Maybe you can sell it that way. Um, Tell them what you love about being a lady lawyer.
So, because this is really my dream to become a lawyer. So for me, being able to help people, actually that for me is the biggest reason why I want to become a lawyer, to help the people. So even in the simplest things like giving legal advice, and then they would be really happy, and they think that it helped a lot. That itself is very rewarding to me. You see, you have a lot of people don't know what rights they have, and for me, whenever I share what knowledge I have, that's and then they would realize that, oh, pwede pala to, may karapatan pala akong ganito. Uh, nakakatuwa kasi you are actually serving the people. Supposedly the laws are known to everyone, but that's not what's happening in reality. And as lawyers, it is our job to uphold, sabi nga ni Attorney Vanel earlier, it's our job to uphold and to fight for these rights. And yun nga, for me, it's very fulfilling when if I be able to help people even with this little or very short legal advice.
Well, thank you for your very informative words and sharing the passion that you have for the profession, Attorney Cantos. Uh, may we hear from Attorney Anna Patricia Derecho in terms of how you would inspire our future lady lawyers to take up the good fight.
So for all the aspiring lawyers out there, I say you do it because our society, although the stigmas are breaking down eventually, but we really need more women lawyers to represent us in all sectors, in the judiciary, in the executive, in the legislative. These are three things that are very important. Legislative because the policy making. We need more lawyers who would fight for the rights, for the rules, to draft more rules that are favorable to women, that are helpful to those who are to disadvantaged women. And for the executive, we need more strong women who would implement these laws. And for the judiciary, we need more unbiased and brave judges. And I say our society, our country really needs more female lawyers. And from all these discussion, lady lawyers have their own set of advantages. They're more, I say that emotion should be turned into passion. Yes, we are more passionate. And so women lawyers would have a uh, good, they're really a good help in our society. And it's time that we are the first ones uh, to lessen the gender disparity. And so I say you should do it. You go forth and pursue your dream of becoming a lady lawyer. And I tell you, it's really a fulfilling experience. You try to defend the rights of people, and of course, you break the stigma that only male lawyers can be, only male uh, individuals can be lawyers. So uh, you're being helpful to others, our society. You're a help to our society. At the same time, it's also fulfilling to yourself.
How can you tell the women listening to us now, those especially those who haven't really thought about becoming a lawyer, who aren't even sure of what they want to do with their lives yet? Can you tell them what you love about being a lady lawyer?
What I love about being a lady lawyer, just like Attorney Cantos, I love the fact that you help. We were both in a legal aid clinic, so we have the same reason, or we have the same push of being a lawyer. We want to help more indigent clients. We want to give advices to a lot of people. We want to inform a lot of people that these are your rights. These are the things that we should to do in our society, the do's and don'ts. So I also love that I am able to represent in my own way the female population, because I have been I'm not really a hard what do you call that, a very a female advocate who's really fights for the female. I'm not really a hard what do you call that term, solid, parang solid female advocate, but just, there's really a part of me that I want to represent the female population. So that's what I love about the law that I'm practicing right now. Because every day as I go to the office, as I go to the court, I love the feeling that I'm a woman and hey, I'm a lawyer. So I'm at this profession which was before dominated by men. So if you want to have that same kind of experience, that fulfilling experience, well, you decide. You can not just for law. You can also take up. You can be a doctor. You can be a politician because those professions are also before dominated by men. So we have to all make our mark. And well, this is for me. So for you out there, if you're not sure what to take, well, it's up to you. You just have to find your passion and have to make your mark.
Thank you, Attorney Durecho, for sharing your passion with us. And perhaps Attorney Beltihar can have the floor and give her closing remarks regarding what you have to say about, to our future and aspiring lady lawyer.
Like for me, the crux of being a lawyer is upholding the rights of everyone and upholding justice. It may seem intimidating, but I want to inspire or encourage young women that being a lawyer is achievable and that they just have to fight for their dream and that know that there are a lot of women out there who can support them and there are a lot of women out there who needs representation. So who better represent a woman than a woman herself? You know, so I want to encourage those people who are second guessing in taking up law to just do it. You know? Just keep focusing on your goal, which is to become a lawyer, and whatever hardships that will come, you can overcome these hardships because you're strong, because not just because you're a woman, but because you are a human. So there shouldn't be a divide between a man or a woman, but we are all human beings, and we can do anything that we set our minds in. So I think the way we can be the way we can achieve gender equality is not defining ourselves by either being a man or a woman, but defining ourselves as pure human beings who have dreams, who have passion, who have who just wants to make something out of him or herself. So I think that's the most important thing to do is to help each other. So maybe we learned a lot from our male counterparts, and that I think that's a good thing. And we also learned a lot from other women lawyers. And by helping each other, we can make the world a better place.
Well, thank you for those words, Attorney Vanel Andrea Beltihar. Um, then, can we ask you to share your passion and your love, your very human interest in the practice of law?
What I love about being a lawyer is being able to identify the the rights of other people, being able to identify the issues that needs to be solved. Because as uh, as a person, I am very I nitpick a lot. So I think it's very useful in the legal profession that you nitpick on every issue, on every rule, and on every law, and that's how you will be able to argue yourself. And I also love arguing with, with
Arguing with
others.
others.
So that's my passion. But I want to talk about issues. I want to talk about the rights of other people. I want to inform them. So I think that's what makes lawyering uh, very enjoyable and very useful for because it's getting your point across to others, um, you and inspiring others and helping others know what their rights are.
Thank you, Attorney Beltehar. So, clients, if ever you have an unscheduled jail time, you know who lawyers to call because no schedule is too inconvenient for them. In fact, you have lawyers who will burn the midnight oil for you at GIA Law. Our ladies, or our attorneys, Beltehar, Derecho, and Cantos. Well, I hate to break up with you guys, all three of you, but this is all the time we have for our coffee break. Thank you very much for taking time out. I know minutes are all billable, and we've spent a lot of precious time sharing your knowledge, your nuggets of wisdom, and your insights about how women lawyers can really dominate the legal scene. And that's our episode for today. That's the time that we have for the Manila Times Coffee Break, discussing women lawyers dominating the legal scene. Thank you and good day.